was unbelievably great.
Yay.
And how about it? Huh? And we'll hear more if you don't mind playing a couple more songs. You seem to enjoy it, and maybe get more references to Spinal Tap in.
Do we have an 18-inch model of Stone?
They're not as confused as you are they?
Well, I managed to find my way to the stage.
And I didn't introduce you the right way. You did want me to introduce you how?
I'm Rick James, bitch.
Right.
Oh, no.
I figured it would be better if you said it.
Right.
All sorts of liability.
Was that convincing?
Yeah. Dave Chappelle, ladies and gentlemen. So, getting to hear you play and reading your bio, I mean, I think it's so. What you've done is fantastic, right? But what you've done is also, I think, what is the path, right? In some ways that musicians today have to take. I mean, you part owner, maybe full owner of a studio, session musician, solo musician, part owner of a label. How did that happen? How did you get?
It's funny because I'm part owner of the label and part owner of a studio, and none of it was completely planned out like I had thought. Because
what do you mean? As an oboe major, you didn't?
Well, I was going to be an electric oboe player, but no. No, I feel guilty when I say that because I was a mediocre oboe player at best. And while I was maintaining my scholarship, barely, but I was maintaining my scholarship here, I was also starting to play at, there was a pub that sadly is no longer in existence thanks to our friend Katrina, the hurricane. No offense to anybody named Katrina sitting here. But it's strange because if I'd gone back and planned it, it seems like a really brilliant idea of the path that I took, because now I'm making a living doing a heavy amount of original music. But what I started out doing was something that marketable, because I think the general public is going to be drawn to the familiar. And I'm sure a few avant-garde musicians out there are going to know this, that people are very, very scared of something that is considered weird, or what the hell is this?
Yeah,
and so I started out, yeah.
I don't want to interrupt you, but
okay.
I mean, I think it's worth noting at this point that John Zorn won a MacArthur Genius Award, right? Does anyone care about that?
I do.
All right, John Zorn, I mean, I think that's an avant-garde musician who's being recognized this career, and now he's a MacArthur fellow getting $1 million or $500,000 or whatever, and is a genius, and for doing his thing and staying on the path, and that's the path that you take. And
well,
there's a MacArthur Genius Grant in your future, I hope.
Cool.
Yeah.
Whatever, but it's funny. I mean, not to say that what I'm doing is avant-garde, but it certainly ruffles the feathers of the hardcore traditionalists.
You're playing a bouzouki.
I am playing a bouzouki, but which sounds a lot more interesting than it really is. But it's by starting out first doing, while I was not studying, which was quite often that I was not studying, I was playing in the quarter, doing a lot of traditional music, and then slowly starting to write songs and kind of working my way in by playing a couple of originals and then more originals. And the next thing I know, I actually have people requesting my originals, and it's a balance. It's kind of a trade-off, because what I would like to be doing more is more original music, but the gigs that I'm doing in the quarter are more or less my day job. I've never had a real job per se, and hopefully don't have to.
Yeah, I mean, you got to qualify that too as a musician, because I mean that is the hook, right? Having a job where you can say, I don't have a real job, I don't wear a tie. Blah,
well,
blah,
it's
but you
insert
work
tongue.
nonstop. Right?
Yeah, it is. I mean, I say that inserting tongue firmly in cheek, but it's. Because there is, I mean, right now it's what we're doing, myself and my partner, Ron Keller. We're doing it all, and this is not something, I would be perfectly happy to change that circumstance, because we get up, he's making the calls. It's good to, after a certain point, to have somebody else represent you if you're trying to get gigs. There's another step, having somebody else, for one thing, having somebody else call up a venue or a festival and tell them how great you are is a lot better than you doing it yourself, and they tend to take you more seriously. And
you mean you didn't do the trick of aliases?
I didn't say I'm Rick James that time, but
Try
they caught on. Well, they caught on that he was dead. So, but that's one thing. I mean, we're basically I have, as of now, I don't have a publicist. I don't have an agent or a distributor. I'm basically between myself and Ron. We're doing it with our bare hands, and I would like that to change. I would very much. Any help would be helpful.
Well, be specific about it. I mean, what are the relative merits? Because I'm certainly a preacher of doing it the way you're doing it, with all the good and the bad. So what's the relative merits?
The relative merits would be that we're basically keeping the money keeping the money ourselves.
Sure.
One thing that I cannot stress enough for starting the label, it was something that he started, and then I came along, and we formed an LLC, a limited liability corporation, together. And so we're doing all the bookwork that way, making sure that we had the name of the label copyrighted. You're supposed to come up with something like 4 or 5 names because there's so many possible names. So he listed 4, and I think his music attorney said, give one more just to be on the safe side. And at the time, this was before aliens were chic. He had been reading, I think, Whitney Strieber's Communion, and he said, okay, Little Blue Men Records. And so that's what, when the certificate came in the mail, that's what it was, which we both actually end up liking better than the original choices. But one of the things that's very, very important, too, is if you are going to take this formal degree, is to really take care of the bookwork, because the IRS comes down very hard on people who are self-employed. They think we're rich or something. So to make sure that you can prove that, and one of the perks is that certain things that you can write off on your taxes, your strings, your clothes, things that have to do the gas that you put in your car. A lot of these things are tax write-offs because they go towards music.
Business expenses.
Yeah.
So what's a typical day like in the Little Blue Man complex?
Let's see. Boy, that's hard to say.
Usually,
well, there isn't such a thing, but a lot of times it means getting up after. Usually, we're pretty tired because we've either been playing out of town somewhere, or I will have been playing the night before. But he usually will get on the phone and call people. I'll put together press kits. I'll check the website to check for update any upcoming gigs. Check for feedback. Go through, kill the spam. That we have this spam filter that's very time consuming, and things like that. A lot of times in the afternoon, I believe it or not, I actually have a couple of bouzouki students. So I'll teach them bouzouki and then go down to the quarter and play. I mean but a lot of times in the daytime he's getting the gigs for me. I'm playing them. Sometimes he's playing with me, and then. Or he might have a recording session, or somebody will ask me to come and play some bouzouki on something. So there's no typical, but it's basically kind of go.
Now, do you ever? And I try. The goal of, in my mind, the whole program, but certainly these occasions, is to try and pull out prescriptive knowledge, things that these students can kind of take. And you've already given a ton of that, but in the midst of all of that you're doing. How or are you able to kind of strategize? I mean, is there a plan moving forward for the company, for your career? Is it all intertwined?
There is, making sure that we have enough money in the kitty for things like CD reorders,
sure. Cash flow.
Things like that, and also what's been helping now is keeping a database of festivals coming up, as to what time, going by month, as to when to send press kits in, when the festivals actually are, because that's where a lot of the money is in the festivals, because that's a huge audience coming out there. They're all day. That's where the best money is music festivals.
And is the goal to grow the label, or is it to be a vehicle for your career, or is it the goal to get signed to another label, or have the label be acquired, or you don't?
Yes to all 3 of those, okay. And you can do all 3 of those. Sure. We're a small label. We've got about 7 or 8 releases right now, but we've sold. This is not much in the real world, but between the 2 of us with our bare hands, we've sold about 30,000 units.
No, that's a huge amount. That's a huge amount.
That's with our bare hands. So.
And that's also, and I think it's so important. You kind of said this and didn't make much of it, but the distribution is done how?
The biggest that we would very much like a distributor so far, but as it is, the biggest CD seller is on gigs,
right.
And the second biggest is on the internet, and that's where all these things that are. I was a child when Pong was the big technological amusement, so I'm old. So it's more amazing to me to see how much the internet is such a blessing. CD Baby, which beats the pants off of a lot of these big labels that are now they're starting to shake in their boots. And what a lot of the big labels that I see are doing now is they might sign somebody, but a lot of these folks don't have any staying power. They have this incredible turnover. They'll sign some of these bands and they'll run them to death, and then they'll get rid of them and sign new people.
Yeah, I mean it's become a bad version of the movie business. But your 30,000 sales, the margin on those is I'm guessing is probably $8 to $10 a CD, right?
Profit. Now a lot of that is also getting a good having a good relationship with whoever's pressing your CDs.
Yeah, sure.
Get the best prices. We've got a guy at Houston Records, and we send him a lot of business.
Okay.
And
The broker.
so if you can get the best price per unit, I said, then that cuts down the cost, because if you only have to pay a certain amount from the factory, and if it's your own label, then a certain amount goes into the kitty to pay for those records, and the rest goes into your pocket.
Right, as opposed to, and I'm just trying to make the point, if you had a distribution deal, you'd be paying 30% distribution fee, you'd be paying $2 a unit. Co-op,
Yeah,
you'd be
but
lucky
it
to
would-
gross $2 a unit.
But
you
it
have to
would
make them in
be,
volumes.
yeah. But it would be wider. I mean, that's
Maybe.
why we do it. Is that theoretically it's supposed to be? Again, that comes in handy. The better you're known,
Sure.
And that goes with the more you play out. And it's a vicious cycle, because there are a lot of people that are going to be reluctant to hire somebody that they've never heard of before. So the trick is to get, start out being maybe the small fish in the big pond, and then working your way up.
Okay, well, let's hear some more music.
Okay.
Great.